So if you want to see how I did this and repaired this handle so that you don't have to buy a new handle or make one, watch the rest of this video and learn out how. It's really quick and easy to do. So my tilt adjustment knob broke off on my table saw. Basically the plastic housing where this nut goes into broke, and as a result it fell off. So for a while I took the nut out and I just put it back in so I could use a wrench to turn it, but now we're going to work on fixing it. Here's where it broke right here. You can see how the plastic just shattered where that holds the nut, and basically there is a screw that holds that nut in place, and it's a Allen screw, so all you need to do is take it out. All I'm going to do is take this Allen screw back out of this nut that's holding the nut in place, and then we're going to epoxy the nut back inside there. Be careful here not to drop the washer that's on the screw. So just pull it all back. So the first thing I'll do is I want to make sure that this can set pretty much level, so when the epoxy fills in here, it'll be good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean this whole area out. First of all, I'm going to knock this piece out right here because this piece is broken. So I'm just going to knock that piece out. It's already broke, so all I'm going to do is knock that out, and then I'm just going to clean this with some denatured alcohol. The reason why I'm cleaning all this out is because I want the epoxy to adhere down in here pretty good. So you don't want any dirt or anything like that that'll cause epoxy not to adhere very well. So in addition to that, all I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape this a little bit with this tool, which will just cause some roughness, some gouging basically. Get another good clean out. Now that we have it for the most part, I mean, it's probably not the best clean, but it's probably enough that the epoxy will fit down in there and everything. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix up a batch of epoxy. I'm just going to move this out of the way. I am just using some JB Weld plastic for a bonder. It's pretty equally matched. I'm just going to try to figure out roughly about how much I'm going to need to get in there, which is probably I'm just going to eject this whole tube. Might be a waste, might not be. It's not too expensive, so I'm not too worried about it. And then we just mix this up really good. Both colors look consistent. I'm using a little Dixie cup here so I can just mash it out. This has about a 15-minute set time, so it looks like it's going pretty good mix right there. So now what I'm going to do, make sure that nut fits back down in there pretty snug. I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little epoxy, and I'm just going to put a little bit around the edge. And I'm going to put some over here on the remaining edges as well. And now I'm just going to simply fill in these edges here to hold the nut in place. If you're wondering, the epoxy is getting warm. It's already starting to cure. Sets within 15 minutes and is sandable after 30. So any part that's above the edge here, we'll just sand it back down. So even though it is above the edge here, like I said, we'll just sand it down here, and I'm going to pop this bubble right here.
You can use heat to pop bubbles, but I decided not to because of plastic.
Clean my needle nose. I'll sand that back down once it's cured so it's flat again, because right now it is a little bit high, but my goal is to have it encapsulate that nut down in there so that nut will not move. And like I said, just to make sure it will not move and break out. So now we'll just wait for it to dry. We got a few more bubbles popping up over time here. They won't be that big of a deal if there are a few bubbles here or there. Once we sand it down, it should be fine. So here the epoxy is set for about 2 hours, and now I'm going to sand it down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm essentially going to turn the belt sander on, and I'm going to ever so slightly sand down these edges by just taking this and dropping it down on here and holding it and just tapping it. I got a really fine grit. I think it's a 220 grit on here right now, and it should take these edges down pretty close. Off here on this side, I've got a box fan with a filter sucking in, and then I got my respirator on to help protect from air. Now that I've got this pretty much sanded down the way I want it, you can see the nut starting to show up. I didn't get it all the way down on this side, but I didn't want to take any more off. I'm just going to go over it real lightly with my block of wood and sandpaper, just to kind of knock some of the edging off here. Then I'm just going to take a fine screwdriver and kind of clean the inside here where the nut is out. Just kind of get some of that dust and stuff out. Not that it really matters too much. It'll go on to the, because it's still got that flat edge, it'll go on to the shaft just fine. There's no epoxy on the flat side here, so epoxy on the flat side could keep it from actually going in all the way. So I think that looks pretty good. Let me just knock this little edge down right here. And the epoxy ran over it just a little bit. And this is just kind of a little hack to allow me to basically put this back on my table saw without building a complete new handle or buying a replacement handle. It's a quick, fix, relatively inexpensive, allows me to get this back in use. Again, I waited a little more than 30 minutes. I waited probably close to 2 hours after I did the initial set. It should be permanently cured by tomorrow. I'm just following the directions on the JB Weld on the epoxy. So it's hopefully will be strong enough. It says it has 3,700 pounds of pressure gripping force. So it's basically what I want to do is be able to grip this thing on there nice and strong so it doesn't spin. And this epoxy already feels super hard, so it should allow me to do that. That's how I managed to hopefully salvage this so I can reuse it on my table saw without having to buy a new handle or custom build one. The thought did come to mind and make a nice wooden one here out of like a plywood, but if I can do this and keep this in use a little bit longer. So I'm just going to slip this back on here, line up the nut, let the shank on the tilt adjustment, thread the little Allen screw back in. This will sure beat using a vice grip on that for now.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.